We're Batman at 89. Hello and welcome once again to Batminute 89, the show that analyses and investigates Tim Burton's Batman 1 minute at a time. I am one of your hosts, John Parker.
And I am the other host, Niall McGowan.
Hello, Niall, once again.
Hello, John.
And today we are joined by animator, writer, and YouTube star Leigh Lahav. Hello.
Hi. Hello, YouTube star. Okay. I'll wear that with honor, no problem.
Well, more than we are anyway, so you know that's the main thing.
I'm told that we are on YouTube, but I've never looked into it. I know John's put episodes up on there. I don't think we've ever even plugged it. It's like, oh, it's a thing that exists that I don't know anything about. But
well, we might as well plug it right now. If you really want to listen to us on YouTube, do it. Go for it. But anyway,
look on YouTube.
Today we are looking at minute 61 of Batman. And the minute starts with a red right hand, also a left one. And it ends with Joker telling Vicki to take it off, which is quite a startling thing to hear in Batman.
Yeah, because we get in, we're still mid Partymen. So if you're a Prince fan, then this is like these past 2 minutes have been the minutes for you.
Oh yeah. Have you watched the music video for that? It's awesome.
Oh yeah. It's we've been ensconced in all the Prince and Batman 89 paraphernalia for. It seems like it's never ending. But
well, I'm mostly happy that all the Prince stuff has been put back up on YouTube now.
Yeah.
Because obviously he had a big problem with it himself.
Oh really?
Yeah, he wasn't a big fan of his music getting shared around for some reason. But obviously, unfortunately, now that he's gone, it's all appeared again on YouTube.
All spreading again.
Yeah.
How macabre. Very fitting for this minute we're gonna talk about.
Yes. What are your feelings on Prince then? Are you a big fan of Prince?
I mean, I've never been specifically obsessed like other people who were talking about him when he passed away. But I was familiar with his work. I loved his work. Kind of. I can't call myself a fan, but I can call myself an avid listener, an appreciator.
Oh, that's a good term. I'm going to steal that for other acts.
Yeah. Go for it. I mean, yeah, it's Prince. I mean, it's great. That's pretty much it. And this song is great. Yeah. And from what I know, it didn't appear in any one of his other albums. It's just that Batman.
Yeah, I think he's got.
Yeah.
There's some kind of like reams and reams of like legal issues with Prince. So I don't know if he had some kind of litigious problem with getting it on other albums that he himself was entirely. Well, I suppose he was entirely in control of the Batman soundtrack as well. But
I love this use of this specific song in the movie, specifically in this scene, because it starts with "All Hail the New King in Town," which it is kind of he's being represented to the city in these scenes, and it is the new guy in town, the Partyman, and that's kind of what he is. He sees himself as this new disruptor of order. Because a king necessarily means something more orderly and monarch, but he's I'm chaotic and I'm something new. So this is kind of a cool kind of song for this, because that's kind of what he's doing in this scene, is rearranging and reimagining the museum according to his new worldview.
Yeah.
Which is basically, this kind of a song. The Flugelheim, I forget what they called it.
I think it's Flugel.
Yes, Flugelheim.
Flugelheim, yeah. Which is obviously Guggenheim. Though it's kind of funny, the pieces that he's destroying aren't specifically from one museum. They're from very different kind of museums.
Yeah. I thought that was very strange. They just seem to have got things from all over the place.
Yeah, it makes you wonder kind of who rearranged this specific art exhibition that has kind of patches from Baroque and Impressionism all together, and then it's kind of interesting. Maybe that's another claim, because my claim for this scene is that Tim Burton is saying something about postmodernism.
Oh, okay.
Using the Joker. What it is specifically is kind of hard to pinpoint, but I think we'll try to do that here.
Oh yeah, we'll try and figure it out. Definitely.
So looking at the scene, I recognized or searched for the art pieces, and the art pieces in the stores are a self-portrait by Rembrandt, 17th century, two dancer on stage by Degas. There's also like a little statue by Degas there, 19th century.
I was trying all week to find out what that statue was, and you just easily...
No, I mean, I couldn't find specifically, but it is either a Degas or registers as Degas.
Okay.
Like that's what it's obviously.
I mean, I'll completely trust you, because it's like, well, you clearly know what you're talking about more than I do.
I'm pretty sure. I'm pretty sure. I mean, I'll be surprised if not, but I'm pretty sure if someone wants to correct me. But yeah, there's Pink and Blue by Renoir, Woman Holding a Balance, 17th century Vermeer, and the George Washington by Gilbert Stuart, 18th century unfinished, maybe statement about money.
Yeah.
Oh,
but all of these are range from Baroque to Impressionism. I couldn't find a leading connection, except they're all traditionally beautiful, very kind of tame in coloring.
Yeah.
And and being destroyed by bold blasts of paint. So we got all these conventional, beautiful works of art that the Joker's... Well, what?
Oh, it's just... I was going to say, because like the first one we do get, like when we start this minute, we're... the first one we see is the Rembrandt, the portrait of... A portrait of the artist at age 63. You'll never guess what the subject of this painting is.
Well...
Yeah, what are you going to say?
It's Rembrandt himself at age 63.
Well, yeah, that's exactly what I thought it was.
I've been sarcastic.
Jesus.
But yeah, because we get the announcement of the funkiest man you'll ever see, and we get stamping with led to believe that this goon in particular is Terrence, who was mentioned last minute as Terrence Brush, and we get to see him for a split second. But he does it, because slaps his hands on it, and then sort of does almost kind of like a little, a little kind of gangster slaps of just sort of like knocking the face around a little bit.
Yeah, it was very much a dual slap.
Yeah,
kind of.
I love the
idea. Should have kind of extracted a glove and slapped it across his. I challenge you.
Oh, that would have been amazing. Although, yeah, I can't get out of my head now the idea that Rembrandt is the funkiest man you've ever seen.
Yeah.
So, it could be true. I mean, I didn't know him personally, obviously, for obvious reasons.
But I will note, though, that in this we see, like, right, that painting is, it's got paint hands over it now. The very next shot of the Joker with the statue sort of mocking the little ballerina pose, that painting's in the background again, perfectly untouched. So it's major continuity error right there. And it would be fine if they didn't they almost kind of lull on it for a second to be like, yep, this is one of the paintings. It's like, we just saw that get destroyed.
You can see that shot of them dancing around was done immediately before he put the hands on as well. Because he's got paint in his hand, red paint he's throwing over the other painting of the ballerinas. So he's clearly ready to go and to wreck the Rembrandt one.
Yeah.
They've just changed the order and not thought about it for even 2 seconds.
Mm-hmm. Oh well, I mean,
yeah.
I want to start with the Rembrandt, but there's a continuity error. Leigh wouldn't notice, and she didn't.
To be honest, we wouldn't normally notice, but we're crazy doing this.
No. I mean, it's a great scene. I'm really happy to be part of this, and I mean, yeah, you see all of these, and then there's this beautiful moment where he said, "No, don't touch this one. I like this one, Bob.
Yeah.
Leave it."
Oh, yes.
Let's talk about this specific art piece and why. Yeah, okay. I mean, so yeah, he's not destroying this Francis Bacon's figure with meat 54.
Yes.
It's from what I read about it just a bit. It's kind of claimed to be spoofing based on the famous portrait by 10th Pope Innocent by
I remember his name is
Diego Della.
Yeah, it's just the fact the name's like the Pope Innocent X, which sounds like a proper
X. I think it's 10, isn't it?
Yeah, it'll be 10, won't it?
Yeah.
Pope Innocent X is awesome.
That's what I mean. It just sounds like, it sounds like a supervillain name. Pope Innocent X.
Oh yeah, I'm sure that exists. That sounds like it's something that exists. So I mean, I'm interested in reading kind of the wiki entry on this specific creation, not the Pope one, the figure with meat, if you please. Bacon appropriated the famous portrait with its subject and thrown and draped in satin and lace. His stare stern and full of authority. In Bacon's version, animal carcasses hang in the Pope's back, creating a raw and disturbing crucifixion-like composition. The Pope's hand, elegant and poised in Velázquez's version, are rough and gripping the church seats of authority. Anyway, it goes on and kind of depicting the differences between these. Eventually, I mean, the bottom line is the figure with meat drawing is sort of a nightmarish, grief-induced version
it's horrible.
of the other one, kind of. So again, we got all these very interesting kind of comparison of all these beautiful works of art the Joker is really happy to trash, and then this horrible nightmarish image that looks like something from Hellraiser.
Yeah, it does. It looks kind of like wings made out of flesh.
Yeah. Oh, that maybe Hannibal. If you watch the Hannibal, there's a scene there which I think it also kind of took from this, and I can see why. There's a kind of interesting comparison here between that and the Joker, because that's also kind of a macabre parody on fine art. So obviously he likes it because that's exactly what he's doing.
Yeah.
To this exhibition.
I do have a quote as well on it. Someone said, the painting is designed to be less an assault on Catholicism per se than an image of an authority figure reduced to utter anguish and helplessness. Which is,
here you go.
Yeah, very much like, it's the Joker's whole thing. It's just like, taking what's up and making it down, and, turning everything on its head, and, putting figures of authority in places of helplessness, like he's doing with the Gotham City mayor and like all the people who are in charge. Like he's already taken out his boss, and now he's going for the world at large, basically. And it seems to be,
it's great. It's just, and I mean, even the scene itself is sort of a meta, because that could have been a great scene even with a different kind of creation, with something he just decides, I like this one. It's a good joke by itself, I think. I mean, so even that is a little meta, because he is about kind of chaos, and no one expected him to kind of spare this one. Why? And although, I mean, on one hand, it can be viewed as, him liking this specific art piece because it says something about him. I mean, artistically in the movie. On the other hand, it also does kind of carry his personality as chaotic and with no definitive purpose. And that's the Joker. That's what he is. And I think it's because this is how postmodernism art is viewed as well. So I think it's also a statement about that, about how chaotic it is, about how it seemingly doesn't have a specific mission to it, doesn't have a specific meaning to it.
But I think we would be remiss if we didn't mention that I think it was brought up a good few minutes back, like kind of mentioned briefly by a previous guest, but we had this whole thing is actually, it's influenced by a plot line in the 1960s Batman show. It was
Oh, yeah,
two-parter called Pop Goes the Joker, and then Flop Goes the Joker is the second part. It's very memorable episode in that it concludes with a sword fight between Alfred and the Joker, which is like really like, holy crap, Alfred's is
Awesome.
a badass. But
Yeah, I want to see that in this movie. That would be good.
but the whole basis of that is like the Joker goes into a museum and he starts doing exactly. He actually has like twin guns where he's just sort of spraying everything with multicolored paint, which actually looks very reminiscent of the Condiment King, who's a character who would appear in the Batman animated series, which may well have been influenced by that as well. But his
Wait, the Condiment King, like,
Time-
would he
Yeah.
fire ketchup and mustard and things?
that's exactly what he did. He was.
Oh my god! Yes, I need to see this.
Oh, it's a great episode.
there we
It's a
go.
Joker-based episode. That's why I think they it might be directly influenced by that. But his whole thing is, he goes in, he destroys the paintings, and for a moment, everyone's sort of taken aback. But then the sort of modern artists are like, "What are you talking about? This is a masterpiece. Look what he's improved this painting." And he ends.
Oh, that is very 60s.
Yeah, and then he ends up. The whole thing becomes like a real critique of the modern art kind of scene, because he enters an art competition, and it's like this guy's there like painting with their feet, and there's a character called like Jackson Potluck, and there's Vincent Van Gogh, and all these kind of. And all the Joker's doing, like, the rest of them are going crazy. Like, one of them's got a monkey painting for him. And all the people are like, oh, it's so profound. And then he will, like, the Joker doesn't paint anything. And then his whole statement's like, no, it's what I'm not saying on the canvas and all this. And they're all like, oh my God, he's a genius. But all he's doing is just completely,
He's a master.
Yeah, he's just completely conning these people. And it's all part of some, grand big scheme. But the whole, it's very much a critique of, like, these artsy... the hip art crowd in 1960s New York. It seems to have it's looking down its nose a bit at them, going like, these people don't know what they're talking about. They'll just like anything because it's trendy. Like, that kind of vibe it's very It's a very damning kind of.
It's actually a great piece of information that adds to this as kind of a callback that I'm sure he's done, that I'm sure he knew of this scene. At least I hope he did. Or
like the Tim Burton, but like even the second one, the whole plot line of the Penguin becoming the mayor, that's from the '60s TV show as well. So that's like it's very much like, oh, he's totally seen it, like that show. He's obviously a big fan.
He never copies it, though. It's always got a really heavy Tim Burton twist.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
It's never 100% the same. He has to make it bizarre and dark and strange.
Though I would say that, I mean, in this specific movie, my initial reaction was kind of, since the Joker is kind of doing a redefinition of that art museum, in what I see as kind of postmodern way, since he does also use these very, huge blocks of colors in a very Pollock sort of way. And, what he does may be intentional, but it's still kind of really revolves around kind of chance and the chaotic. And my first initial was, is Tim Burton kind of saying something about postmodernism as villainous, as mischievous?
Oh,
I mean,
yeah.
and I'm thinking, okay, he obviously thinks villains are more interesting.
Oh yeah, for sure.
So I mean, like the villains are more interesting. Even the Joker looks more interesting. There's a scene where you see him next to that art exhibit, Figure with Meat, and then you cut right away to Vicki Vale.
Yeah.
Yes.
And she's blonde and she's wearing white and she's kind of traditionally beautiful, but which was more interesting, her or kind of the Joker with his grotesque face and that grotesque? I mean, obviously Tim Burton is saying, oh, this is horrifying to look at, but look how interesting.
Oh yeah, he's very much drawn to those characters. That in a way, especially the second movie, it's all about the villain. It's not even really about Batman or any of the other characters.
For sure. I will note that because we were talking just briefly off mic before we started, I was saying to John, as Bob is going to slash that with this huge dagger he's got. For years, my entire life, I always thought the lyric and at that point of the song was Buddy Holly, you want to party. And apparently, it's somebody holler if you want to party. And I'm like, it doesn't sound like that at all. What the hell? But I was Googling, like, Buddy Holly, you want to party? Nothing was coming up. I was like, this is the line in this song. I'm certain that it's there.
You're like, why isn't it working?
That's a good line, though.
But I was really trying to get that in. I was like, what's Prince saying by asking a musician who's already deceased if he wants to party? Is it like the Joker's dancing with death? Is it what kind of a thing?
Oh.
And I was like, no,
reality ruined your entire seminar idea.
You had a whole essay written.
Yeah, it's like the...
Could write an essay about false memory.
Oh, yeah.
It's like
That's our next podcast. It's our spin-off show.
It's like it's like a famous story of there's an old film from the 60s called If with Malcolm McDowell, and it's partially in color and it's partially in black and white, and it's a very surreal film. It's like it'd be very controversial as well because it's about like a public shooting in a school and stuff like this, and but yeah, it turns very, very weird. But all the critics kept coming to Lindsay Anderson with like notes on it, going like, there's certain scenes in this that are in black and white, and there's certain scenes in color. Are the black and white ones supposed to be some kind of comment on like the simplistic, animalistic nature of man and all this kind of stuff? And Lindsay Anderson was like, no, we just ran out of money and we had to buy cheap black and white film.
First of all, I mean, it is a story. It could be false. But I will comment. I mean, whenever stuff like that happens, let's call the creator, the writer, and ask him if he meant to do that, if they meant to do that. And I've experienced that a few times. And on one hand, yes, they have their specific vision. On the other hand, I do think, in animation specifically and film, you do get some great creative commentary from mistakes.
Yes.
And, they had that mistake, but it did create something new that I think has to be intentional. But even if it wasn't, I've had times where I created stuff and people would comment on a certain thing I didn't think about. But then as I kind of explored it myself, I thought I did think that there was something behind it that I just created without kind of thinking about it.
Like subconscious kind of.
Yeah, I do notice that happens with a lot of younger creators who just start college and they don't have kind of the right words or how to explain what it is they want to create, but they know I want to create this thing. Like they have a sort of raw idea of how to create something from years of watching TV and knowing art, and a teacher would comment on that and kind of analyze what they made, and they were like, "Oh yeah, I guess that's true. I just didn't think about it while I was creating." And I don't see it so much as we caught him.
Yeah.
He didn't really.
Well, plus, sometimes mistakes or things that you have to change that are out of your control lead to something new and better and different. Because, I mean, me and Niall, we both really love the movies of David Lynch. And that's what he did with the movie Mulholland Drive, because it was originally going to be a TV show, but they didn't pick up the pilot episode. So he had to change it into a film. He had to finish it off like halfway through. So people keep asking him to this day, like, what was the TV show going to be like? Was it going to be the same as this movie? And he's like, well, I don't know.
Yeah.
Now it's a new thing.
Yeah.
Now it's its own thing. Now it is this film.
Yeah.
And that was arguably his best film as well. It's kind of like, well, you got something even better out of it. What do you want from me? But we're talking about things that like have a bit of like, what happened here with this particular work, because we've we're up the stairs now, but we do see in the background like our close to because we're big fans of Bob the Goon Leigh as but he's closely followed by Lawrence, who's the guy holding the boombox.
Yes,
bald guy. That's
Lawrence.
Yep.
Woo.
And you see him. He starts spray painting over the Blue Boy, the Thomas Gainsborough, and then of course we got the $1 bill. And the $1 bill it's a weird thing in this film because it comes up again in the next couple of minutes where the Joker says he wants his face on the $1 bill. And there's a whole thing
Yeah.
that's actually cut out of the final film, but we'll get to that obviously when it comes around. But in the parade, when he's showering Gotham streets with money, apparently it was supposed to be that, and it's in the novelization, it's in the comic book, it's in the original script. That people will pick up the money, and it's actually the Joker's face on it. That he's
Yes, Joker dollars.
And that seems like this is all setting up to that. But then they cut it out, and it's like, But we'll say, because that's the $1 bill is that painting, the Gilbert Stewart. Is it Gilbert Stewart you call him? Or
Yeah.
But and I was really curious because I know this painting because I'm not American. I know it as like, oh, that's the painting that Jebediah Springfield ruined in that one episode of The Simpsons. and then it was like,
That is not what I was expecting.
Yeah, and I was like, oh, I wonder what actually happened. Maybe there's a big mystery about what happened to this painting.
Oh,
And
yeah, I looked it up as well.
Why it's unfinished, you mean?
Yeah.
It's exactly what you're expecting.
He died or something,
that's it.
no?
And it was really disappointing because it's just like, I really preferred that.
No, but I mean, it's disappointing, but it's beautiful in its own sense. Which, I mean, I wonder why they chose specifically that. There were a bunch of George Washington creations that Gilbert Stewart did, at least one that I can think of, and I would choose that one. Like the unfinished one seemed like something he would like more.
Yeah.
Like, this is absent. This is beautiful.
Well, either he would love it, or I would like to see him finish it, like in amusing, comical fashion. Like he can finish the portrait. That'd be fantastic.
We do see as the Joker's approaching Vicki, he's spray painted a $sign over it. So he has, I guess, the Joker or one of his goons has finished it. I guess technically,
sort of.
Yeah. It would connect better if that scene you mentioned existed, no doubt.
Yeah, for sure. And it's just this bizarre one. Like it's another one of these setups. Cause we had one earlier as well, where during the Smilex ad, he says like, "Oh, now over to our blind taste test." And in all the scripts, and in the comic, and in the novelization, it cuts to a guy who's blindfolded, and then the guy in the film isn't. And it's like you missed the point of that's supposed to be a joke. It's like it's a blind taste test. He's got a guy tied up and blindfolded. It's like Tim, do you not get what a joke is? Like this is what the thing.
Although this Washington thing, because of course not being American, I have a very strange view of George Washington. He always, whenever I see him, makes me think of the old video game Day of the Tentacle. If any of our listeners have ever played that, because you go back in time, back to those days, and you meet Washington and Franklin and lots of people like that. So every time I see Washington, I just think of that game and how good it is.
Well, I didn't grow up in America either, and I think I grew up in Israel, and for us, it was, I mean, a lot of American iconographics sort of mix in together. So, I mean, when I see it, the first thing that came into my head is money. It kind of, that character of George Washington just was absorbed within that bill. So that's all I could see when I saw that specific creation that they used there. If they had used another George Washington drawing that he did, he's kind of standing tall, and it probably wouldn't have taken me there. It would have taken me to, colonial America, but...
Well, that's an interesting sort of statement on American society then that you've hit on.
That's kind of what they were trying to do, but the unfinished business.
I do think there's definitely some kind of critique of, because you remember like in '89, like what when you think of the 80s, or now the 80s are a big thing again, but like but back in the day, it used to be yuppies, Wall Street
is good.
Money.
Yeah,
exactly. So I dare say there is a deliberate, there's a focus on the dollar bill thing, and the fact that he brings it up again and again, and this whole thing at the end of like throwing money around, which is supposed to have his face on it and stuff. There is some kind of critique of
all critique, but also and this is something I think the movie does support. Everything we said till now, all the postmodernism critique, the throwing away money, him kind of drawing on stuff. It's also childish, very childish. I mean, you do need to work hard to understand these kind of creations, and he doesn't. So in some way, I also kind of think, since he is the villain, he is interesting, he's mischievous, we've said that, but he is the villain. We are supposed to see his actions as false. All of these, down with money, all the things that he is saying, maybe the director, Tim Burton, and kind of tells us to eventually see him as sort of a false art critic, false prophet, who kind of doesn't see also, the other subversive revolution that the other paintings had behind them, which they had. Yeah. You only see kind of the superficial, this is pretty, I hate it. Kind of like, children who kind of refuse to listen to classical music and don't like to go to a museum.
Yes.
Because, for them, it's like boring, outdated. They're kids. It's fine. It's for normies. and that's sort of how he's acting, too. I mean, specifically, Batman is our good guy. And he does represent in some way order, and says that can be cool, but Batman is also kind of chaotic. Is Batman postmodern? I mean, it's kind of, yeah.
But anywho, the final couple of seconds of the minute itself here, there's actually a lot going on in this little shot as Vicky's approaching, or as the Joker is approaching Vicky. Because I've noticed, for one thing, if you look down in the bottom left corner, there's one of the either we can't decide if they're unconscious or dead, but
I'm going with unconscious still.
I went with dead.
Oh,
fight!
I mean, yeah. Even if they're unconscious, their body language is very much that.
Oh yeah, I mean, it would suit the Joker more if he had killed them. Definitely, like that'd be more his style.
But speaking of that, there's a woman, her face down, and she's got a lit cigarette that's still smoking in her fingers.
Really?
That's a nice little detail.
I saw the smoke coming out of that, but I couldn't see the cigarette. I could see the smoke. So I was wondering, like, if that was lingering gas or if she was just spontaneously combusting. As you do.
Yeah, I see. Yeah, okay. I see the cigarette.
But and then we get
interesting.
Just also, the goon I feel the worst for is the guy who's having to hold the candelabra and the bucket of champagne or whatever he's got,
and the glasses.
Because he's just like, even like in the last minute when the Joker, like, to the Lincoln painting, is like, oh, give him a shave. He says it to that guy, but he's not got a knife or anything. He's just like, I'm having to carry all the gear, man. I don't get any fun. I just have to, like, I could have left this, like, downstairs and then ran down. I could have put it down and wrecked, but he's like, no. He has to kind of pretend. He's like dancing, like, yeah, I'm having a good time, but like,
but he can't.
Yeah, it's like, I really want to wreck some of these paintings.
He really exits the screens quickly. There's like, no.
He needs a break. He needs a smoke. He's maybe going to get the cigarette, I think.
Oh, yeah. Aiming for the cigarette.
I mean, I would much rather have that boombox. I mean, I don't recall holding a boombox since the early 90s. So
I don't think I ever held one. I don't think they were really it was ever a thing in Ireland, the boombox.
It didn't make it over to Ireland, though. They'll be coming out next spring.
But then beyond him, we also get the Joker's various weird faces he's pulling, and he's sort of doing these little weird stances as he's approaching Vicky. It's like, what's going on, guy? Like what's...
Well, he's
trying, at least, beyond that makeup.
He's trying to kind of be flirtatious. I think he's trying to look a bit seductive, which does not work. Let me tell you.
It's wonderful because he just did all these horrible, he is destroying art pieces. It's not the worst thing that could happen, I guess. But he does do this kind of illegal sort of thing, and then prances over to her like nothing happened.
Yeah.
That's him. That's like, oh yeah, my mind is elsewhere now. Yeah, I'm with this now.
A slight spoiler for upcoming minutes. He even seems to think that maybe she should be impressed by what he's been doing.
Yeah.
Which is even more bizarre, to be honest. Especially because he knows that she's not on board yet with his new concept of the world and his new vision.
Oh yeah, he thinks he's redesigning the museum. He thinks it's very impressive, very cool. I mean, obviously it's in some place in his heart, he knows that she is horrified. He's looking for her to be impressed or to have any kind of reaction, I think, and she doesn't give him a lot. Just any kind of reaction, which is also very postmodern.
Yeah. It is, because she...
Doesn't matter what.
She gives him...
Just give me a reaction.
She gives him nothing, really. It's not even really fear. Like, I mean, she looks a little scared. Like, she knows there's no way out, though, I think. So she's kind of accepting it and waiting for a chance, maybe.
So, she does kind of mirror all these pretty art pieces that he didn't see. He didn't get, like, a strong reaction from. And now he's hoping, oh, maybe she is different. Or I'm going to turn her different. Like I did for these art pieces.
Beautiful art pieces, which I want replicas of. I suppose I could buy a replica of the actual one and then just put the handprints on myself.
Yeah. I'm sure you could probably get one of the Edward Hopper one where he writes, Joker was here. That seems like a thing, though.
Oh, one of these Joker reimagined one, you mean?
Yeah.
That's awesome.
That would be cool.
A slight note that it didn't bug me, but I felt a bit bad for this one guy, is that we see the dancers on a stage, which we talked about last minute in more detail. But the guy who's defacing that, like the goon, Richard Strange, and he's doing a little ballerina dance over to it, and sort of like nice little flourishes with his brush, and he's obviously got a vision in mind. And then when you see the next time you see the painting, someone just splats paint over it anyway. It's like he put some effort into that, man. Like he's already defaced it. Why you gotta add in the lime green paint or whatever? Like it's.
I mean, how do you suppose he got those goons? I mean, he promised them you'll have kind of a canvas to state your own creative vision onto.
Well,
it's a strange concept. Like, where do you get these goons from who are very into the idea of doing these kind of things? It's not like they're going around robbing people and stuff.
I'm kind of thinking the guy with the candelabra is like, I'm interested in being a goon. I'm not sure about the whole kind of I'm not a creative person. I will go on a flight of stairs and carry medium heavy sized items for you. And he was like, oh, I got just a part then.
That must be the only way you could possibly get any of these guys.
Yeah, this is the 90s. How did he do that? There was no Craigslist. Was there like a henchman headquarters?
Yeah, there must be some kind of phone book or hench list. There you go. Yeah.
Hench list.
Hench book.
Artistic hench list. I'm interested in being bad, but also, I am artistic. I'm watching the video right now. He's really going at that Degas. He's like, he's dancing, he's stroking that. He's happy.
Yeah, he's loving
This is something he's been wanting to do.
It's made his day.
Yes. And the guy with the boombox is like, he's the one who's splashing his own paint afterwards. Now I'm seeing.
Oh, well, maybe he's just like, at the end, he's just a very frustrated kind of guy. He's like,
that wasn't good. Yeah. That wasn't good. I suck.
Like, yes, it's brilliant. It's brilliant. No, it's rubbish. Just destroy it.
I'm horrible.
Isn't that what all creators think about their work, though? Once you look at it for slightly too long, it's like, oh, it's awful. No, get rid of it.
And later he's like, what's wrong, Bob? Nothing.
And then he'll sulk and he won't be able to sleep. Oh, Jesus. Yeah. His whole weekend's ruined.
Yeah.
I mean, in terms of the actual action of the minutes, I think that's everything I've got, unless you two have anything else in particular about this minute you want to bring up. Or...
I had a couple of little things. Now, I suggested it at the start, but I'll bring it up again, because Joker comes over and he says to Vicki, you can take that off now, I think, which he's referring to a gas mask thing.
Yeah.
But I just found that very unsettling dialogue. That sounded it was quite seedy. Yeah. I was like, oh, that's a bit dark for the Joker, because I think it was meant to be kind of sexual.
I think.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Because
I think.
But she clearly feels quite threatened by him, and he's being flirtatious. So it came across in quite the wrong manner to me, I thought. So it was
mean, that's the point.
I would say so.
He's supposed to be that. I mean, and yet he manages somehow to be like the least unsettling Joker that there's been, I feel.
Yeah,
in some ways. Yeah.
Where would you rank him in terms of your Jokers? Would you put him up
I really like his Joker. I'm just saying that in terms of unsettledness, he seems like the least chaotic to me. His chaos is a little more subtle.
Yeah, he's still held on to a lot of his former
Maybe.
persona, hasn't he? Like
Yeah.
as a gangster.
Like it's more Jack Nicholson than the Joker, really.
Well, you could say that about most Jack Nicholson parts, couldn't you?
Exactly. I mean, the unsettledness is him in a lot of other movies too. That's why maybe I didn't think it's that unsettling, because it registers, oh, that's that guy. I kind of feel like that's kind of the experience that these directors have once they meet Jack Nicholson. Like, oh, this guy looks like bad news. and then he's a nice guy, but then he proves to act like a maniac.
Well, we have got our ongoing thing of asking the guests, because when I was younger, I was always under the impression that Jack Nicholson was regarded to be like a sexy person. That, like, cause you knew he got around and he had like loads of illegitimate children, and he's just like, oh, he's like a sexy guy. But I found that apparently since, so like, no, apparently a lot of people don't rate him that way. Have you ever found Jack Nicholson attractive on any level, or?
Yes. And I will say, but I'm a bit weird. But still, I mean, I would say that the thing about Jack Nicholson and the best place that has been described is The Witches of Eastwick. Is that he is not like traditionally handsome, even when he was younger, but he does have a sex appeal that does attract you. I mean, no matter your sexual orientation, you are interested in seeing more of him. You're kind of drawn to him. And that is a sexy thing.
Yeah, I could see
I've
it.
begun to look forward though to when we do Batman Returns next year and be like, so do you think Danny DeVito is sexy? And just to see what the reaction will be.
Hey,
Probably will get a few people going, yeah, you know, you could do worse, you know.
Yeah.
Especially in that movie, you know, he seems like he'd be interesting, a lover, shall we say. I won't go any further. It's a family show to some degree, but he'd be very interesting.
So yeah.
Yeah, there was only one other thing, which, well, actually, no, there were two other things, but I don't want to keep the show going too long. But at the start of the minute, I forgot to mention, when we were on about the little statue, I just very much liked how it looks almost like it's in a yoga pose. It's, I do a bit of yoga. It looks like Warrior 3, which is also known as Virabhadrasana 3. So I just thought maybe Joker is into his yoga.
Or not, because he's trashing that statue too. F*** yoga.
Yeah, he's not a fan of yoga. Maybe because he hits it. And actually, a listener of the show has sent me a message, Christopher Dennis DeGardia, because he watched this and he thought that when Jack hits that statue, he could sense in him that it actually really physically hurt him quite a lot, because it does look quite heavy.
Oh.
So he maybe did that kind of on a whim and was like, oh, and sucking it up for the rest of the scene. Yeah.
That was a bad idea.
But no, the only other thing I had was in the original draft of the movie, in the original script there, it says that the Joker is wearing, and it's in these words, a big purple pimp hat. Now, I never really got that vibe from it. I thought it was meant to be an artist's hat. But maybe they were going a different route and it was going to be like a hat with a feather in it and things. I'm not too sure. It doesn't describe it other than a pimp hat.
It might have been their initial idea, and then actually let's do it an artist hat, because he's obviously he's reinventing something.
Makes 100 times more
Maybe
sense.
Tim Burton just views artists as pimps.
Yeah.
I was actually, because I was trying to spread out, because like the next 2 minutes are a bit like, there's not as much going on, so I was like, I'll save a few things. But I do have a theory on why they've changed the hat, because actually, well, beyond it just being like, well, this is like an artist's hat that he's wearing now. Apparently, you can see the Joker in a series of comics they gave away in the 60s with Pop-Tarts. Like back when Tim Burton would have been a kid, and there's like a storyline called the Joker's Happy Victims from the Batman Kellogg Special 1966, where he's wearing pretty much this exact hat, only it's red. And I just kind of had a thing of like, well, Tim Burton would have been a kid in 66. Maybe he liked Pop-Tarts. Maybe he had that comic, and he's like, no, I remember that.
Okay.
Because there's a specific scene of the Joker coming in and gassing people while wearing the hat as well. So it's like, yeah, it could have been even a subconscious thing of like, well, yeah, maybe that was in there, you know. But
Yeah, it's possible. I think you're onto something there. We've discovered Tim's secret.
it's like, well, Lee said earlier, we caught him. So
Yes. We're onto you, Tim. Come on the show and explain it.
But Leigh, do you have anything else in this particular, the actual action of the minutes you want to bring up?
Yeah, I think I said everything I had to say.
Well, as the minute ends, we didn't actually mention the last shot of the movie. The last shot of the minute. We should probably specify, just to be sure, you know, people are following along. Vicki shakily removes the gas mask. She looks quite confused and like she doesn't know what's going on.
And distressed.
And that's when it ends. Boom. Done.
Yeah.
But Leigh, I suppose we can, if you don't mind, we can talk a little bit about, like, you know, maybe your personal history with this film and Batman in general, because I suppose that people probably do, if they don't know like your face or anything, it's a good chance they might know your voice because you've done YouTube animated things that are done quite well. Like you've worked with the, you know, your own ones. You've done like, was it the Frozen is the New Black, which was like the cross up between Frozen and Orange is the New Black with a lot of Disney princesses and like the a lot of fangirl. A lot of your stuff's very focused on, you know, the fangirl culture and that kind of thing. Although notably, because you see a lot of stuff on Marvel, but I don't think you've ever really brought up Batman in himself.
Oh, it's really a timing thing. It's just that when I started creating that channel, it was Marvel that kind of was on the rise. But when I was younger, I was definitely more into DC. I was obsessed with the Batman animated series, obsessed, and I just loved all that universe. I think I did read a little bit X-Men, but that was it in terms of Marvel. That it wasn't something I was interested in until the cinematic universe began.
Yeah.
But I love the Batmans. This Batman actually, the 81 Batman, I did watch. A little older, just like I don't know. It wasn't something I watched it. I think when I was in junior high. But the second one, the second Tim Burton one, 91.
Yeah,
92.
Yeah, like 92, I think it is. Yeah.
That I watched a lot when I was a kid.
Oh.
My mom loved it too because she loved Michelle Pfeiffer, and so I remember it a lot better. And I will say, I mean, it's not just my nostalgia; it is my favorite of the two. The second one.
Yes, that's my favorite as well.
So yeah, I love the Burton movies. Later on, the other Batmans, I like a little less.
Oh.
Although I will say that I rewatched not so long ago, like a few weeks ago, I rewatched Batman and Robin again. Yeah. The one with Poison Ivy.
Oh yeah.
And Mr. Freeze. I have a newfound appreciation for it as a piece of cult classic camp. Creation. I mean, I've read an interview in which he apologizes for the film. I don't think he should have because I think he did exactly what he wanted to do.
Yeah.
It wasn't it wasn't the Batman blockbuster that he was expected. Maybe this is why he apologized. But it was an amazing piece of camp that was surprisingly subversive. It was very queer. It was. I mean, I was watching it and I'm like, there's like a scene where Poison Ivy, I don't remember which scene it was, but she kissed Robin and she's trying to kind of, lure him into his death, and he has that glazed kind of look on his face that you just don't see. You don't see men making that face in in Hollywood in heteronormative sort of movie. And I thought that was amazing. Like he had this vulnerable sort of moment of like complete passion, and I was like, that is interesting. that is amazing that is like in a kind of blockbuster kind of film. Yeah. And there were a lot of moments like that. Like the entire movie is covered, all of Gotham is like full of those huge naked Adonises in very suggestive kind of poses. It's an amazing. It's an amazing thing. This film. It really is. It's worth a rewatch.
Yeah, it is definitely. It's very unique. I mean, you wouldn't get that movie now. Certainly not.
No, we would not. This is kind of a cult classic for underground sort of movies. I'm shocked that it was presented as a blockbuster. Shocked.
Yeah,
It's so
well, I
interesting.
mean, if everything goes according to plan, in about 3 years, we're going to be talking about Batman and Robin minute by minute. So if you want to come
Hooray!
back, you can.
Invite me, please.
Definitely come back. Yeah, that'd be great.
But is there anything about like, so obviously you're like a big, currently very much into superhero fandom and the characters and whatnot. But like
Now I am starting to get a little tired of
Yeah.
superhero stuff because it's just
well, you have a video about that as well, as I recall. Don't you?
yeah. Although I am interested in that. I am just interested in culture and movies and cinema and television in general. And yeah, superheroes is an interesting part of it because it's the new mythology. It's kind of our new heroes, so that's always interesting to talk about and see how each director kind of finds his own version of that mythology to tell. So yeah, so for I forgot his name, Schumacher, right?
Yeah, Joe Schumacher.
It was kind of this queer paradise, and for Tim Burton, it was him. It's him, his auteur language.
Yeah.
A dose of camp, but mostly a kind of dark sort of reality.
Yeah, I do always like it when the director brings their own voice, their own vision to the work,
Yeah,
and all of them did.
And that's exactly it. That's exactly like going to a museum and seeing those different version for Bible verses.
Oh yeah.
So yeah, so this is one of the reasons why I'm so interested in it, because it is kind of interesting seeing what people kind of mash those into.
So before we head off into that dark, dark night, Leigh, do you have anything you'd like to plug? I mean, where can the good listeners find you online?
Although I hardly upload any videos anymore, you can find me at youtube.com at / like OnlyLeigh, OnlyLeigh, or my Twitter account where I complain about the Leigh Lahav, yeah, LEIGH,
One of your videos was a pilot. Was it Belle and Tina are time travelers?
Yes.
I remember I really loved that, and I was like, is there going to be more of that,
Thank
or
you.
is it just sort of a
potential? Yes, we're kind of figuring out a few
Hey.
things, and yeah.
Because I was really, really, really enjoy that. So it's like, well, here's hoping.
Thank you.
Well, make sure to check that out on the YouTube and all the videos, because they're all fantastic. And check us out as well on Facebook. We are at the BatMinute89 Listeners Society. And we also have a Twitter at BatMinute89. And also look us up on Instagram and Tumblr as well. I can't be bothered to tell you. Just look it up. Do some work. Damn it. Listeners, it's not all for us to do. And make sure you join us again, because we will be back on Wednesday, where we will have minute 62 of Batman. See you then. Next time, Criminal Critique. As Vicki Vale views more villainous vivacity, will a vain virtuoso's vilifying reviews render her work volume void? Find out next week. Same Bat Pod, different Bat Minute.